Hello, Nymphs. So, in case you can't tell, I was feeling a little bit extra today. I found an excuse finally to dress like this. Although I could probably do it anytime I wanted to, but I am going to be teaching you how to turn any book into a tree hollow. It's fairly simple, a little bit messy, if you'll bear with me. But yeah, I mean, you know, all those people asking, how the heck do I turn my book into a tree hollow? Here is the answer. I hope you enjoy this video. Let me know if this is the kind of content you want or will put up with, because I'm really enjoying making books at the moment, and I hope you enjoy watching me make books. I'll see you guys next time. So for this project you're going to need obviously a book, you're going to need some acrylic paint, probably in your more natural colours, and greens for moss if you'd like to add that later. Some tubs, probably like ice cream tubs or something of the kind, to put your glue into and mix it. You're going to need PVA, some masking tape, tissue paper or something that does the same job, and you'll soon see what I'm using that for and you can decide for yourself. Baking paper, just to like make sure surfaces are clean, some paper towel, and a pen or pencil to mark things out, and then your scalpel and or your cutting knife, and a cutting mat if you'd like to use that as well, just for safety. So yes, I'm going to start by marking out where I want my hole to be. Going to check and see. Yes, I think that's inside of it. About 2 fingers width. Yep. Alright. Yep. So I'm going to start cutting through to make that hole. I'm going to try and place the cutting mat here, but let's see how I go. So now that that's done, this step is optional, but you can use sandpaper to just make the edges inside a little bit less harsh, just so the finishes are a little nicer. What are you doing? Psst, psst, get out! Psst, hey! Ah, oi! What are you doing? So now what we're going to do is make the structure of the edges of the hollow just out of some scrap tissue paper I've got. If you've got anything scrap lying around, that could possibly work too. Now I've made this ring to go around the outside. I'm going to use masking tape to hold it down. If that decides to work. So once all that's sealed in there and not moving, then you're going to want to start doing the paper mache, which I'm going to fill one of these tubs with some water and add some PVA and stir it together to make a thinner consistency so that I can drape over the paper towel. To protect everything, I'm just going to put some baking paper down. And another layer of baking paper over the pages. And around the sides. Now I'm going to add PVA to the water and give it a stir with the end of an old paintbrush that I don't use anymore. Gotta make sure it's not too watery but not thick either. So the last thing you want is clumpy bark. Okay, I'm going to give that a try. I'm going to just, because of the size of the book, I'm going to rip up my paper a little bit more into smaller pieces. I'm going to the first one to go. Gonna wring out most of the water. Maybe this could be 2 pieces. Make sure it's going in more of a vertical direction to look like tree bark. So I like to get that kind of look, the vertical tree bark look. Just want to give it little pinches to get things to all go in the right direction. Just bunch it up that way and make sure not to bunch it up horizontally. Some of the edges are having a little bit of trouble sticking, so I'm just putting a little bit more glue just with my finger underneath. I'm going to leave it to dry. I'll let you know how many hours it ends up taking, and then I'll start the painting process. Okay, so this has taken about 4 or 5 days. I'm not really sure anymore. Around about that, just to dry enough so that I can paint on it. It's still not completely dry, which isn't ideal, but it's the best I can do on a time limit at the moment. So I'm just going to start painting it with the acrylics, and I'm going to start with black and then work my way up to the lighter colours. I don't have a palette for my acrylics, so I'm just going to whack it straight on, so this might be triggering for you. Actually, you know what? I'll just use the baking paper. coated this in a pretty even layer of black and gotten into all the crevices, I'm just going to wait for it to dry before I go on to the next layer. Now it's about a day later and this is still like in some areas a little bit wet, but that's fine. And now I'm just mixing some raw sienna with some burnt umber to make the right brown to paint over the top lightly and keep the darker colours in the crevices. So this is the final painting stage. I'm just going to add little bits of green, olive green, to like put moss around the outside, make it look all old and give it that fairy tale vibe. So yeah, I'm just going to mix a little bit of olive green and maybe put some yellow ochre in it as well for the highlights. yeah, I'm just giving it some mostly mossy edges, which looks really nice and more natural, I guess. Just build up colour as you go till you get the desired green. And then eventually I'll finish off the inside by doing some cutting out with a scalpel to reveal the title in the center of the hollow. The end papers were really ugly, so I've just painted over this page and I'm going to finish that off and I'll show y'all the end result.